you think of the playoff games, OB?
I thought they were boring.
I know.
But I'm glad they had. I'm so glad they had. Wait, well, you know what? SMU had a chance, and their quarterback just lost his mind.
I know. Kevin Jennings did not play well, and then, but he threw the fourth down play early, and he threw it behind him, but the kid could still make the catch. It wouldn't have been an easy catch.
Yeah, but you know what? He could have run easily for the first down.
He didn't play well. That killed him on the road.
That's an understatement.
Now, I will say this. Everybody thought that because the games were boring and, Indiana losing by 10 to Notre Dame, that's worse. That game was worse than what the final score depicted. That scoreline really
you could probably
flatters.
say the same thing for Texas and Clemson.
Yeah, both those scorelines really flatter the loser there, I think. But it's too early for everybody to be sitting up here and saying, y'all wanted 12, this is what you get. This is 1 year. This is 1 year. And everybody said and I'll go back to a high school football reference, they expanded, playoffs from 1 to 2, and then they went to 3, and now it's at 4. And
4 teams getting the playoffs.
4 teams from every district. But this year there was two or three seeds or below that went all the way to a quarterfinal. So it is possible. I just don't think that you can make an overarching definitive statement about the playoffs should have been cut at 8. 12's too many because of 1 year's worth of games. The sample size is not big enough.
Look, they're going to eventually go to 16. Sports writers, and I'm one of them, just like there's certain words I don't know if I can say in it. They like to complain.
Okay.
They just like to find a reason to complain. Because for all year they said, it's gonna ruin the regular season. It made the regular season better. Sports writers typically, especially national ones, they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, college football's better when Notre Dame's good. Well, when they weren't good, college football was setting all kinds of records and people were watching, so why did it have to be better than Notre Dame?
The SEC basketball, what it looks like we're getting ready to head into conference play. This thing looks like, again, to me, Tom, this looks like an SEC baseball schedule with the depth of the league this year.
Yeah, it's incredible, and enough teams have put enough in the bank that they're going to be sitting in a really good spot, but it is going to be a dogfight each and every game. And by the way, what is that? So what does that mean to the average fan? Well, it means just about every SEC game, a home game, if you're not a top 10 opponent, you're going to have a top 10 opponent in your building. You're going to have the opportunity for a huge win. You're going to have these great environments. It's going to be a big stage every night you play a conference game, just about. And I don't see anybody running away from this. I mean, there are tiers within the league right now, and certainly, Auburn and Tennessee are probably the leaders of one tier, and then there's a great chunk of teams in the next tier, and the middle tier can win any game. I mean, LSU's gotten off to a great start. They're the second lowest rated team in the net in the SEC. They already have 10 wins and 2 losses. So I think it's going to battle whoever earns the regular season championship is going to absolutely earn it. But it's also not going to be limiting in terms of, you could finish 8th in the league this year and be a Final Four team. I firmly believe that. Other leagues are down. The ACC is down. The Big Ten has good depth, but not as great high-end elite teams. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Your comp to baseball is perfect because this is exactly what SEC baseball has been forever. And what I always say during baseball season, I think also applies to this basketball season. It's not going to be about who you play. It's when you play them. Mm-hmm. Because there will be ups and downs. There will be injuries. There will be dips even from great teams. So do you catch Auburn while Jani Broome is injured or when he's healthy, for example, will be one big thing. Like you get to play LSU, fine, but can you skip Paul Skeens? That's going to be different for you, and you get to then bag a great win against an elite program.
Mm-hmm. We'll start with a commitment. 2026 tight end Caleb Tafua kind of caught us off guard, and the more you talk to people, kind of caught a lot of people off guard that he chose the Aggies. A&M was in his top 4. a 6'4", 225-ish pound tight end out of Lakewood High School in Lakewood, California. I had to look up where that was. It's between Los Angeles and Long Beach, so Southern California kid. The Aggies continue their run out west of really plucking top players from the state when you look at what A&M was able to do in this recent 2025 recruiting class. But Jason, when this came across our desk in Arlington, you started to do some research and do some homework. This kid's been hugely productive.
Yeah, he was the leading receiver out there at Lakewood. I want to say he had about 800 receiving yards and a big target in the red zone, especially. But he can break loose a little bit and give you a dynamic presence down the field in the passing game. And that size. He's got some real length there, and Colin Klein's going to have a good time handling. Getting him in the mix.
Yeah, and I love you mentioned his production and high school kids that play tight end. I feel like a lot of it is a kind of a projection because it's not a spot in high school football that you see overly utilized, right? Like there's some guys that are super athletic, they're big bodied, and maybe they're more adept at catching passes than they are putting their hand in the ground and run blocking. This kid has been hugely productive as a receiver and as a blocker. Like he's got a lot of obviously physical tools, but then it shows up on Friday night. That's one of my favorite things is the numbers he's put up.
Yeah. And like you said, that catch radius, he's physical and the ball's in the air. He does a good job of positioning himself. And that's the reason why, this is a guy who he chose A&M over Cal, USC and Washington out there. You had offers from Oregon on the West Coast and as well as all across the country.
For the first time that I can ever remember, A&M is going to have visitors on New Year's Day, but everybody is kind of adapting and trying to morph into this portal world. And as soon as I say, hey, this thing may calm down a little bit over the next week, A&M gets a commitment. So that's about what you can expect in this portal world. But Jason had a report over the weekend. Aggies felt like they were in a great spot with Mpemba coming out of the visit. So now they've closed on these last two defensive line commits were visitors this past weekend, and A&M able to close them out after struggling to close out, a Kelby Collins and a Jack Pyburn over the first couple of weeks.
I think Mpemba.
He played in 4 games, by the way, last year, so he redshirted.
Craver and Hudson are like really talented dudes. They just need some development. Even Craver, who played a ton for Mississippi State, they just need some development. Like you said earlier, they're still young. The Georgia fans wanted to keep him. That was not like one of these guys that leaves A&M. You go, yeah, they weren't going to play. They wanted him to stay and develop. I would compare it to like almost like a young Rylan Kennedy for A&M, where if he'd have left, you go, man, it's not. It kind of is a killer until you fill out your portal room to see what that D-line room looks like, because Rylan very well might start. But, like prior to this year, if Rylan Kennedy would have left after seeing spot duty as a freshman, you'd have been like, yeah, it doesn't kill us because we got Scorton and Stewart and Turner and blah, blah, blah. But, damn, he was a young guy we really wanted to see develop. As opposed to a Malik Silla, who you mentioned a minute ago. It's kind of like a replacement for Silla. But Malik had been here 3 full years, not played very much. I think he could play at Mississippi State. He could make an impact for them. I think it was probably a good pick for him. But I think in general, like after 3 years, you feel differently than a guy that's as young as Micah, Sam, and Mario.
And like for Micah, it's just about getting healthy and kind of getting a reset.
Yeah.
And